So, hello troops. Today, as you may know, I've started kind of doing reviews after every playthrough of a game. Today's Sunday, and that can only mean one thing, that today's review is of Deliver Us the Moon. No. I'm gonna kind of just break down the intro to the game for you, and I'm just gonna kind of give you a wee blast course on what happened, why we're on the moon, why we needed to save Earth, and then after that, I'm just gonna describe who's who. You know, who the people are, who we meet, who we are, and who we pick up along the way. Let's get into it. So, as you may have known, well, if you remember actually, because it was a while ago, the first episode of the playthrough, you get an intro to the game where basically there's a woman talking and kind of just giving you the lowdown. So I'm going to give you the lower lowdown, that lowdown. I'm going to give you the bullet points to it. But basically, in 2030, that is officially known 9 years from now, the great energy crisis began on Earth. Global resources were depleted, which I'm gonna assume means that includes trees as well and stuff, since there's mass deserts all over the world and dust storms now, which is kind of depressing when you think about it. So because of that, global powers then went on to create the World Space Agency, or WSA, to look beyond Earth for answers, as the nice woman in the intro says. That answer actually became helium-3. And helium-3 is an stable isotope of helium with two protons and one neutron. Apparently the most common isotope is helium-4, that has two protons and two neutrons in contrast. So, there you go. And helium-3 was discovered in 1939. So there's a wee lowdown on what helium-3 is. But yeah, the answer was found in helium-3. And helium-3 was found in abundance on the moon, even though it's practically everywhere in space, but we'll not talk about that. Apparently this helium-3 that it provided, and it works, would have provided the Earth's energy for coming decades. And then in 2032, humans decided to colonize the moon. They made 3 different settlements, as you know. We went to them. I think one of them was like Copernicus Moonbase, Tombow Station, and it was at the Reinhold Station. I think that's the 3 places. They made those settlements to harvest helium-3. They then had a lunar council to kind of just, run things on the moon. The energy from helium-3 was transferred to Earth, using the MPT, the microwave power transmission. I don't really know the breakdown of that, because it's science and that. I mean, I am an amateur astronomer, but it's literally as amateur as it gets. It's not like faking astrophysics or that, so I don't know what MPT is. I don't know how it breaks down the helium-3 and sends it to Earth, but it just does it. It's really interesting. So the MPT lasted for 22 years, which I think is actually pretty impressive. So then in 2054, the MPT or the lights went out on the moon, which meant there was no energy coming or going. There was no communication from the colony, and there were no resources left on Earth to then launch a rescue mission. And eventually, in 2055, the WSA was shut down for good. But what the WSA didn't count on is that a small group of the colonists, they didn't want to give up, really. So they started preparing an abandoned desert launch facility. That's where the game starts, and they've basically been preparing to fix the MPT, or to at least go and investigate why it shut down. And then, what was it, 2055? I think it was 4 years later, in 2059, they were finally ready to launch someone to fix the MPT. The mission was clear. To deliver us to the moon!
Let's get this done.
But also, as you might notice, we get radio calls from ground control, which is Claire, and we'll talk about who she is in a second. But we get calls from ground control every kind of now and then. They kind of set us off on our journey, and they contact us every now and then, talking to us about a dust storm. And basically, the whole world is probably, at this point, more or less looking like Mars and looking like a desert planet other than a lush green planet full of life. So, and Claire informs you that whilst we're on the moon, that there's a massive dust storm. And you hear like a wee kind of radio announcement when you're in your cabin on Earth that actually says that new storm could end up covering 30% of the Earth's landmass in desert. Again, kind of depressing. So then we have that, and then in the first episode we are trying to launch us, the player, up to the moon to try and save things, to try and help things along a bit. It's a really cool part, like just panicking to go launch a rocket. I'll go into my opinion at the end, but honestly, I was I was blown away by this game. I kept talking about it. But we're going to move on to people now that I've kind of give you a summary of what's happening and who the WSA are and what the MPT is and why we are on the moon in the first place. We're basically going to investigate why it went offline. And as you also know, at the beginning of the playthrough, if you watched it, I did think that it was going to go down the alien route, but it decided to go on a different route, and to be honest, I loved it. It blew me away, man. Again, on to the opinions later. We're going to go on to the who's. Who was in this game? Now, the person you kind of hear for first, in your wee cabin at the beginning of the game, she kind of just checks in to see if you're there, is Claire Johanson, or Johanson, however you might pronounce it. I would say Johanson, but I'm probably wrong. Yeah, so Claire Johanson is on Earth, basically. I think she's probably part of the WSA. She's part of the crew that's sending us to the moon anyway. And she has a sister, Kathy, and her dad is ASE Johanson. Her mother was Elizabeth, but she passed away. And that actually made sure that Claire and Isaac entered into a custody battle for Claire, because she was obviously younger. So, inevitably, Isaac ended up winning that. So, and apparently Claire actually designed the rocket that sent us to the moon. That is amazing. I just found that out the other now. But the custody battle with Isaac winning meant that Kathy had to be sent to the moon up to her dad, which is kind of rubbish, because then that meant that Kathy was left on Earth all by her lonesome. And then you've got Isaac. There isn't really much to say about Kathy, because she's just a child kind of caught in the middle of everything. Like, I know I got a bit emotional with the whole Sarah thing, and I was like, I hope Kathy dies. But that was just emotions getting in the way, man. I wouldn't have wished ill on a child. Just Isaac. I hope Isaac dies. But Isaac, he invented the MPT, so that's why he's on the moon. He's up there because it's his invention. I'm assuming he needs to, monitor it or had to make sure everything was in working order. And he done a good job for 24 years? A good 20 years at least, I think. I've already forgotten the numbers. His wife apparently died whilst he was on the moon. That's upsetting. And I don't know if this was worth mentioning now, but I don't know. I'm just going to assume that even before, Isaac taking Kathy away for Claire. I'm going to assume Isaac and Claire didn't really get along because, I don't know, at some point you see Isaac sending her like a kind of last transmission thing, just basically apologising for what he done, and for once actually telling her that he loved her. And I just got the sense that he never told her that often, so I don't know. It's crazy. Now we're gonna go into lesser names, people that actually you might have heard them talk eventually, like through the wee memories and that. But people that were more or less just kind of mentioned in emails and back and forth and such. Who we have is also Maria Gonzalez, and she was one of the 3 survivors apparently at the Hygien's research facility. Oh, and apparently after the accident she returned to Earth and helped organise the Fortuna rescue. Ah, so that makes sense. Because I always wondered that. Do you not hear from her at some point? Like, at some point at the beginning of the game, do you not hear her talk? So that makes sense. I thought she was on the moon, but no, she went back to Earth after the MPT went offline to help the Fortuna rescue mission, which is the name of our mission. And then you've got Dr. Rosa Laverde, who I think might be the woman you see MacArthur basically forcing away. But she is also one of the 3 survivors after the cryosleep malfunction. Apparently that was a thing. I don't know. I didn't know there was a cryosleep malfunction. But she stayed on the moon to continue her work with the moon base, and she learned about MacArthur's plans for the colony, and she did try to reason with him, but as we saw in the wee kind of flashback memories, that MacArthur was a douchebag anyway. So, and apparently MacArthur and Isaac were a higher position than her anyway, so she wasn't really going to get her way, which is rubbish because she actually saw some sense. She was a good one. She was a good egg. Speaking of eggs, I'm going to talk about Edgar Davis. I know it's not egg and it's Edgar, but I thought it was it. Never mind. But, so the 3 survivors of this cryosleep thing were Dr. Rosa, Edgar, and Maria. So Edgar, as I said, was one of the survivors, and he also stayed on the moon to operate the Reinhold mining facility. Oh yeah, no, we do hear Edgar talk. He's the guy who ends up, like, when MacArthur's sending people to go collect everyone from the other facilities, I'm sure Edgar is the guy who's like, oh, you need to press this button, and then, like, to the bad guys, and then he ends up trapping them and making sure that they can't get away. I'm quite sure that is Edgar. He's a good guy, man. I forgot you'd actually hear a lot many of these people. I loved Edgar. He was a good guy. He fooled the WSA like nobody's business. Or at least MacArthur's bad people. Speaking of MacArthur, we're gonna talk about MacArthur. William is his name. He was a Lunar Council member and apparently Chief of Transportation and Security for the WSA on the moon. He apparently developed a plan to help save humanity, but his plans, as you may remember, didn't actually include saving humanity. Well, it didn't include saving the Earth, basically. He rounded up all the colonists that were willing, because as you saw, there was some resistance. Some people thought he was kind of going crazy. Others were like, right, okay, let's go. But he basically created the Outward. I don't know what you call it, but he just created Outward, and that was basically to abandon Earth, use all the helium-3 on the moon to go further out to find more resources, and I really don't think they planned on coming back. I think that was it. I think they were just abandoning Earth and humanity, and that was it. And also, as you saw, MacArthur started forcing people. He used the bad bots. Well, he made the bots bad. He made the ASE units bad. He, like, overwrote their systems and stuff. I don't know the tech talk. But he overrid the ASEs so that basically they could attack people if you wanted them. And we saw that they had like a stun thing. I think they done it to Edgar. And they zapped him. And it wasn't nice, man. I mean, yeah, he played a joke, but and got them trapped there. But I think that was okay. Again, my memory's not great. I apologise. But yeah, so William MacArthur, douchebag. That's all you need to know. Forced Maria or Rosa to abandon Earth as well. I don't know how Maria got away. Like, how did she get back to Earth? Couldn't Rosa and Edgar just left with her? I don't know. Maybe she left in secret. I don't know. I want answers. And then we're going to talk about the two people. Well, one of the people that we are going to save, and the other is who we are. Honestly, what a reveal that was. And these two people are Sarah Baker and Rolf. I didn't know his second name was Robertson, but Rolf Robertson, what a name. So let's take a wee minute to talk about Sarah, the beloved Sarah, who this game ended up being about, to me anyway. I know the game overall was about saving Earth, fixing the MPT, and figuring out why the MPT went offline. But we then get thrown in to this story right at the very beginning as well. Or like when we get to the station, anyway. Of basically just Sarah and Rolf getting to the station, getting to Copernicus moon base and whatnot to see what's going on. And I think they get there 2 days after the blackout. So they did have enough resources to send a rescue mission, so that was kind of garbage. But, so they two up to go and see why everything went offline, and then when they get there, obviously everybody's fucked off. And apparently Sarah kept in regular contact with Maria Gonzalez. Oh, so there was this thing called the Pearson Station, and that was what... Okay, I get it now, never mind. The Pearson Station is this big space elevator that you land on and then take it down to the moon. I think that's what that is. And that's where Sarah and Maria worked. So they didn't send them from Earth. Okay, so that makes sense. So they got sent from Pearson Station where Maria was, and they kept in constant contact with Maria whilst her and Rolf were gone down the elevator and to figure out what happened. It makes sense. See, I'm clearing it all up for you in case there was any unanswered questions. Because there was for me. It was made a case I just wanted to know what happened later. And as we know, man, I did get emotional, whether it was anger or just feeling bad for her. We found out, as we discovered the evil ASE unit, we found out that Sarah got trapped in a room by it. Like, it shut the door in front of her, and she couldn't get to another elevator in time to get out of the facility like Rolf did. Rolf got out in time, but Sarah didn't. So, as we know, Sarah just got left on the moon. And I don't know, maybe they were going for their emotional response, because I know it fucking worked on me. Like, they pulled at my heartstrings, and I was like, Sarah, we need to save Sarah! And that ultimately became my goal of the game. And we've basically just gone through the game new. Well, actually, during that point, when we find out that she was trapped, I think, is that not when you find out that you're actually playing as Rolf? Oh no, that's later in the game. You find it later. But, as I just mentioned, we are playing as Rolf. And honestly, the reveal in that was fucking amazing. I can't get over it. I still can't get over it. I think it was an amazing reveal. Throughout the whole game, you probably heard me ask like a million times, like, who was I playing as? And I really wanted to know, because you were never told. But then, like, halfway through the game, they're like, oh, by the way, you're Rolf. Like, what? Like, you abandoned Sarah, and then you're coming back to save her? Oh, man, it was such a great twist for the game. And I loved it. And then this game just turns into a whole following voice recordings of Sarah surviving. And then you learn, I'm just going to go basically into the end of the story now. Because, well, you know why. Nah, just because I've spoke about who everyone is, so it doesn't matter now. And so was you're turning this into a game of cat and mouse, basically, like, but I'm sure it was a couple of years, like, Rolf gone to save Sarah is a couple of years after they went up to fix the MPT, so at that point you're like, right, is she gonna be alive? So it's just the whole, or like I'd say probably like half of the game is just you wondering if Sarah's gonna be alive. And then at some point you also find out that Sarah isn't actually alone on the moon, and that Isaac actually stayed behind to. Well, you then find out that he was there because Kathy's actually still on the moon, because she was. The outward team took 2 arcs, left one behind, full of the young and disabled people from what I've gathered, or ones with health problems, because being on the moon did cause health problems, which being in space apparently does that. You lose muscle mass, and she was a Wayne, so she was still growing and all that, so that caused her some physical damage. I don't know how extensive it was. So that's why Isaac was still on the moon, because Kathy had to stay in the left behind arc, which was kinda garbage, but you know. So it was just a crazy reveal to find out that Isaac was also on the moon, and that Sarah wasn't alone. I thought that was absolutely amazing. Because it gave you a sense of, so at least she wasn't there herself. At least she wasn't all alone completely, and made you feel a bit better for her, because literally just before you saw her bump into Isaac, she kind of has a bit of a breakdown, smashes a chair, and she's like, I know I'm alone, and it's like, honestly, that pulled at my heartstrings, man. But I don't know, maybe that's part of being a woman, and just get emotional dead quickly. That's just me as a person. Yeah, and then at the end of the game, just go round it up to the end. At the end, as you're finding out that basically Kathy's still on the moon and Isaac is there, or like you're kind of catching up to Sarah. Rolf is kind of catching up to Sarah, and you see this one memory where it's like basically Sarah notices that Rolf is actually trying to steal more helium-3 and isn't trying to help her at all, because she saved both their lives. The MPT was going to, I don't know, I think it was like going to overload or something, like it was going to like overreact or something, because there was too much power going through it, but it had nowhere to shoot it. So it was going to overload or something, I don't know. But there was basically that, and she basically saved their lives, and then they had to go somewhere, and there was a flood, but it turns out that it was coolant, not water, and they got to go fix something, but then Isaac starts stealing the helium-3. That's when you find out about Kathy and Sarah, and before that you find out that Sarah's on the moon to save her brother, who was disabled, I think, as well, and you find out that her brother believes that she was abandoning him. So she risked a lot to go and help her brother. And then Isaac is like, oh, but I've got Kathy here on the moon. And it's like, you really think she's not there for a reason? Like, she told you. They had like a wee bonding sesh where they were kind of like just reminding each other why they're there. Which was cute until Isaac became a dick. But again, it's just story building. It's really good story building. For you to get so attached to characters that you haven't even seen. You've only heard talk. You don't even know what they look like, but you just grow that attachment because it's good story writing. Yeah, and then they kind of have an altercation. Sarah's confronting Isaac, telling her that Outward is wrong. MacArthur was a bad guy, and the Earth is what he should be focusing on, because he has another bird in there, the Claire, you know, the Claire of it all, the Claire in the room, that he's just forgotten about. I think she sent one message and that's it. And the inevitable happens, man. He stabs Sarah with a fucking screwdriver. And I won't lie, I did. There were real human life tears. Real in life tears. What? Shut up. You know. It got emotional, is all you have to know. I didn't actually take a break to cry, by the way. I really had to go get dinner. I just done that as a joke, just so you're aware. But it was a fucking twist. It was a twist that I never saw coming. It was emotional, and then you're like, right, so what the fuck happened? But she still ended up fucking over Isaac once more and sending the helium-3 away so that he couldn't just fuck off. And then during that, he's like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? Dick. No.
What have you done?
And then, after all that, you fix the MPT, you put the helium-3 in, you have to dodge blasts of the radiation and helium and heat and whatnot. I don't know the ins and outs of the what you were getting hurt by. But basically, at the very end of the game, you fix the MPT. And it's amazing. But whilst ground control, like Claire, is trying to get a hold of you, while she's trying to radio contact you, you find out that Sarah is alive and that she has been put into cryo sleep. Although the one thing is, and it's really annoying because you don't know what happened to Rolf, you don't know what happened to Isaac, because we know Sarah's fine. But Rolf got hurt when he put the MPT back online and aligned the towers. He got hurt kind of badly. As you saw, we were in blackouts, but then the game also glitched out with fucking flicking lights that ruined a bit of the magic. But he got injured, so we don't know. And you also hear Claire and see her feet for the first time. She comes up to the moon to find Rolf after the MPT's fixed. And then, so you the end thing you see is Rolf lying under Sarah's cryosleep pod with just little Edie, that's what I called the ASE unit, who, by the way, I have forgotten to mention, has been this life, rock, and saviour of the series. Sorry, Edie, I appreciate you, my little robot friend. But basically what you see is just Rolf practically looking dead and Sarah in cryosleep. There's no sign of Isaac. But then you hear the end transmission is basically Isaac saying he's gone after MacArthur and that he can't run forever. So at the end of the game, there's just lots of mystery. But more importantly, Sarah's alive. That's all that mattered to me, was that Sarah was alive, and I fucking love that. So it was a good surprise. It was an amazing ending. We saved the Earth. Sarah was alive. I don't know if Rolf lived, to be honest. I don't know. He looked kind of badly hurt, but at least he got to see that Sarah was there. So I guess he could maybe die with that ease in his conscience a bit, since he did abandon her. I don't know. And again, we don't know what happened to Isaac. And of course, we don't know what happened to MacArthur and the Outward team, which I really want to know. Like, did they find anything out in space? I love space, I just want to go further into it. But apparently there's a DLC, but it's only out in PC. But I might be getting a PC soon, so at some point I might play the DLC on the channel, just so you know. Hopefully it will wrap some things up. I don't know. I really don't know what's included with it. So yeah, that's the kind of all-round view of the summary. Deliver Us the Moon. And I can't recommend this game enough. It zoomed up there to one of my favourites. It was amazing. It had twists, it had turns, it looked fucking beautiful. It was in space. It was on the moon. You know how much I love space. I had great fun. We got to drive on the moon. We got to be on the moon with no gravity. We also got crushed by a tower at some point. That was amazing. Then had to run for our life with no oxygen or depleting oxygen. It was all great. There was times of panic when you were running out of oxygen. They were fun times, and like that time you get blasted out of the Pearson station, and it was great. Honestly, I really can't recommend the game enough. There was surprises, a lot of surprises, some good, some bad, and it turned out it wasn't aliens. Spoilers, but it wasn't aliens. There's spoilers throughout this whole video, so I do apologise if you've not played it and are intrigued to play it. Don't watch this if you've not played it and want to know what happens and don't want it spoiled. But honestly, I'm kind of glad they didn't go down the alien route. the human sabotage and humans abandon humans, in my opinion, made for a really interesting video. So, I'm gonna leave it here because I've been talking for a while and you're probably tired there. But as an end result, as an end opinion, I'm gonna fucking give it a 10 out of 10. In my opinion, thumbs 10 out of 10 because, as I said, surprises, emotions, twist, turns, amazing music, amazing visuals. Everything about the game was fucking beautiful. That good that I had to swear. That's how you know a Glaswegian likes something. They swear. Cannot we swear all the time. But, troops, I'm gonna leave it here because I don't want this video lasting too long. But I hope you liked this review. I hope you liked the whole series as a whole. If you did like the video, subscribe. That whole palaver, you know, the YouTube stuff. Please, it would be appreciated. Because at some point you might see the DLC, which I would play it in a heartbeat, to be honest. So, keep your eye out. I don't know what's next for Sundays for the channel, but, you know, I'm constantly thinking, using my noggin. So, next week, I don't know what you'll see, but hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as you enjoyed Deliver Us the Moon. I hope you enjoyed Deliver Us the Moon at all. So, troops, until then, I hope you're having a good one, no matter where you are, day or night, and I hope you're staying safe and clean. I almost forgot to say that. And until next time, troops, thumbs! And for the last time, Claire, Isaac, Kathy, Laverde, Maria, MacArthur, Rolf, Sarah, Edgar. I think there's somebody else. I don't know, but where are all the Edie? The ASE unit. How can I forget? I'm so sorry. We're all out of here.